Today, the Z9's new Autocapture feature from Nikon. We're here in Glacier National Park, and it feels like we're cheating as we photograph some of the most difficult subjects in wildlife photography. David Archer and I are gonna talk about how it works, and it's pretty cool. Well, hey everybody, welcome to this week's video. I'm here with David Archer, wildlife photographer extraordinaire.
Thank you, thank you.
And you really, dude, the work that you do, both your landscape and your wildlife work. But we're here running a workshop. We got Rick LePage with us. We have 12 amazing participants. And we've been running around all over Glacier National Park. You know, we've had a ton of wild. We've had grizzly bear, we've had black bear, we've had bighorn sheep, we've had mountain goats, ground squirrels, you name it. Beautiful scenic vistas, some nice light.
Waterfalls.
Waterfalls. But what have you spent the most time here doing?
Well, it comes as no surprise to people that know me, but it's been birds.
Photographing, how big are birds?
Yeah, tiny little birds, tree swallows.
And today we're going to talk about how we've been exploring, well, David's really been exploring, Nikon Z9 Autocapture to capture these little, tiny, fast-moving birds. He found a nest where the babies are fledging, and it's nearly impossible to photograph these birds. They move like fighter planes, twisting, turning, flying back, and he's gotten amazing images, and through sort of, drafting off David's tremendous expertise and knowledge and us exploring the Z9's Autocapture, and we have by no means explored it fully, we've gotten some pretty amazing images.
We have.
And David in particular has gotten, I haven't even looked at the ones that we got today. How many days have you been out there?
4.
4 days. We took the workshop there for an hour, and there were some people that were pretty jonesed on, and then some other people were like, yeah, we need to go look for some bears.
Yeah.
You know? And we create these traffic jams, just nonstop of people coming by, and they're like, what is it? What do you see?
Yeah.
Tiny little birds.
Oh, seriously?
Seriously? But it's fun stuff. It's really fun stuff. And I think, David's dedication to be out there 4 different days, and I've been out, 2.5.
Yeah.
Really does just pay off. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go through, and I'm going to just show you, David's going to show you how he's set up the Autocapture on the Z9 to capture those tiny little birds in their nests. So I think you're going to enjoy it. It's pretty cool. All right, so it's windy here. We have dead cats. I'm doing my best with the audio, but we're going to work with this amazing 600 f4 TCS lens that JD loaned us, one of our workshop participants. It's a beautiful, beautiful lens. It's a lot like David's 400 TC, but slightly longer, slightly heavier. You throw it into the teleconverter mode, flip that big dial, and suddenly you're at 840. It's a fun lens. It's a really fun lens. But David's going to walk through the menu settings, and we've got this Adamus Ninja here so we can be recording what he's doing, and I'll throw that up over here. And I'm just going to step back and let you talk through sort of what to think about when setting this up on a perch or a nest.
Okay. Yeah, we're still scratching the surface of this new toy here. This is the first time I've tried it, but from what I've learned so far is the first thing you have to do is you put your camera in manual focus, and then you focus on your intended target, and it'll show you the focus range. So this is not where we've shot before, but this is a new target. So
right,
we're about 6 meters away.
We're not shooting where we were before because there's not 100 cars driving by a minute here stopping to see what we're shooting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So our intended target is 6 meters away. Okay, so once we establish that, the next thing is we go into the menu. So this works for both photo shooting and video shooting, and you'll find it at the bottom of the menu. So the photo shooting menu, you find Autocapture at the very bottom, and same thing with the video shooting menu. So what you're going to do is you want to put it in auto area autofocus.
Right.
It's based on that.
Oh, and what shutter speed that you want to capture the wild. You're going to set all your settings in manual mode, right? Like auto ISO, little exposure compensation if you want it for dark birds.
Right. All the settings for what you think you're going to be doing.
So for the little tree swallows, we were doing 3200th of a second,
Yeah.
like f7, f8, maybe 7.1, and then auto ISO and maybe an extra stop of exposure compensation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it depends on how the light is
Absolutely.
coming in and out.
Yeah,
So,
you got to kind of play around with those variables. And auto area, autofocus.
correct, yeah.
Right.
So none of that really changes.
No.
Okay. So once you get in there, you hit start, and it's not starting the process, it's starting the setup process. So when you go into your menus, there's 3 criteria that determine everything. There's motion, detection, and distance. And you can use them independently. You can use as many of them as you want or as few as you want,
Right.
depending on what your subject is. So,
And motion is just things that are moving. It sees movement in the frame, and detection is whether it's an animal or a person or a vehicle.
correct.
And then distance is
Yeah.
setting a parameter, a zone that you want to be having it look for it.
Exactly.
Right.
Because if you're setting up something for a particular scene, you don't want somebody to walk in front of it and trigger it.
Right. And I will just say I had a problem with the tree swallows because even in animal eye detect, the Z9 thought that a little knot on the tree was a face. And so it was trying to focus on that face, and the tree was always in focus, and it would detect motion from the birds. And so I went in and I turned off detection. And that's the OK button. You scroll over to it, you hit the OK button, and then the I button takes you back out of that. And now, instead of, I didn't do it, did I? No, I have to hit OK, and then I have to hit OK. Well, wait, how do I get out of there?
You go back to the I.
I? But still, you know what? It's the plus button. To accept it, you have to hit the zoom in button. Now it's just motion and distance. It's a little tricky,
Right.
but I got way better results not having subject detection because it was misreading things. Now, granted, if it's a dog or a human, it's probably going to do better with that.
Yeah. Because these are tiny birds, and we were really far away.
Mm-hmm. Right.
We were, how many meters away were we?
We're 24 to 27 meters away, depending on our position.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So far away, and the animal eye detect doesn't work as well with a tiny bird that far away.
Right. These are about the most complicated subjects you could photograph.
I mean, this is some of the hardest bird photography there is. These things are small, elusive, they fly really erratically, really fast.
But right under that is you set the parameters for distance you want it to be looking in.
Yeah.
And we already got that guy.
Yeah. Correct.
Motion. So you're going to go I button again.
Correct.
And then we want to go down. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
That's setting our distance.
Yeah. So you can set your near and your far distance.
Right. It's only going to look for things moving within that boundary. And in
Yeah.
our case, what was that tree?
I think it's 27.
No, the tree right here.
Oh, this one is 6.
6. So we got to come way back off 55.
Yeah.
And we're going to use the back dial.
Yeah. The rear command dial.
Right. And we might want a couple meters in front of the tree, right?
Correct.
So we go, whoa, it can only do it that far. We're too close.
It's because of the focus distance.
It's because of the focus distance on this. Yeah. So
we'll pretend we were back where we were before.
Yeah, let's go back to the 20.
Yeah.
We're having to look for things.
Yeah.
The last one I measured was 25 meters. And so I set it for looking for anything from 22 meters to 26 meters because they were doing most of their action in front of the tree where we were working, in front of their little hole. So I set it for 22, and then wow, you got to go a long way, don't you? Yeah, It was there it is. Yeah, so right in there.
Yeah. So our tree was 27 meters away. So I set it the near distance for 23 because the birds were flying out between here and the tree, and they were going in a hole in the tree. And so I put the far distance at 28 meters, where if it came flying around the tree,
right,
you could catch them there, but nothing in the back. There's a mountain back behind, and before we set this up, the camera was trying to focus on the mountain. So this really took care of that.
I'm just going to jump in here with a little update based on a few things that David and I figured out in the wake of shooting that in Glacier. I'm here in the yard of my studio, and I just want to show a couple quick things about distance that we hadn't talked about. For one thing, before you go in and set up all of your capture settings in the Autocapture, you want to make sure, like we talked about, that you're in auto area, autofocus. and that you've got AFC turned on, that you're at a shutter speed that you're happy with. So, you know, let's say we're going to be at, say, 1/2000th of a second here. I'm down at f5.6. This is with my 100 to 400 millimeter lens. And then we can figure out, you know, what is our distance to the subject. It's not a bad idea. I'm just flipping the switch over to manual focus here. And if I manually focus this lens to where I get a green sign, you can see it's at 10 meters. This is my 100 to 400 at 400. I'm 10 meters away from this hummingbird feeder in my yard, and I can see that. That's really cool. That's in one of the latest firmware updates for the Z9. You get that rangefinder feature when you're doing manual focus. It's nice to know. We're at, you know, 9, 10 meters, it looks like, is about where the feeder is from me. All right. So, you know, let's go back into autofocus. Make sure we have all of our exposure parameters set that we want. We're at 2,000th of a second. Auto ISO, if you wanted to dial in a little exposure compensation, this would be a good time for that. I think we're fine in this nice kind of overcast light. So I'm going to go in to my menu. And again, I'm at the bottom of the photo shooting menu. If you wanted to automatically capture video, you'd be at the bottom of the video recording menu. But we're going to go into auto capture. And again, you hit start. You can also select which user preset you want to be setting the parameters for. There are 5 of them. We're just going to go ahead with 1. This is nice because if you have a place that you like to set up frequently, you can dial all of these settings in and then save it as a preset. So maybe the blind at your local wildlife refuge could be preset 1, and your local bird feeder in your yard could be 2, whatever. So we're going to go into start, and we've already got set motion and distance like David and I did in the field. But under distance, I'm going to come down here. I'm going to show you a quicker way to set that. One thing that we hadn't really noticed when we were saying this, you can use the back command dial to set the near distance and the front command dial to set the far distance, or you can hit the AF on button to get close to the near distance. As I touched that, boom, it went to 9 meters, didn't it? And then I can use the dial to come back to say 8. And another thing I've noticed is that they limit this auto area or this auto capture feature to less than the focus range of the lens. They don't want the lens racking back all the way to its near distance. That would slow things down too much looking for subjects. So there is a limit. The 600 millimeter f4 TC lens that we were using had a limit that you saw in our video. The 800 millimeter seems to limit at about 18 meters. You can't set it any closer than that. This lens, it's down at 8 meters. I can't set any closer than 8 meters. I don't want to, though. I think about 8 meters is fine since our target seems to be at 9 meters. You can also do the same thing for your far distance. You can go ahead and you can tap the shutter button. As you see to the right of where it says 24 right there, you can tap the shutter button. Boom, look, it set that at 9 meters. I want to go a little further than that. Let's go out to, say, 10 meters to catch any hummingbirds moving around behind the feeder. So now we're looking for a zone between 8 and 10 meters. And you can see at the top right of our screen, up at the top, it says the I menu will return you to set more parameters. So that's just a little quick tip that we figured out in the wake of making that video. Let's jump back to Glacier. So then we hit the I menu to get back out of there, right? Right. Yeah. And now our distances are set. Yeah. Area, yeah, let's talk about speed and size.
Yeah, so you've got speed from 1 to 4, 1 to 5, and these things go really fast.
Yeah, we set them at 4.
Really fast.
Yeah, they're not quite race cars, but they're not far off it.
Yeah, so we set the speed for 4, which was almost as fast as it'll go. Then the size goes from 1 to 5. These birds are teeny tiny, so we set the size for 1.
Right. It's got to be one of the smallest things the engineers thought of.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But if you were doing something different, if you were doing bears and you wanted to make sure that a leaf didn't fall in front of the camera and trigger it, or a bird fly by, so you could have set it on 4 or 5, and that would limit
the size of the object. Yeah. Or if you're photographing people, you know, maybe it's a 3 or a 4, and then a cat won't trigger it walking into the scene.
Because what you want to do is try to eliminate these false positives.
Right. Right.
To have a bunch of images to look through that you don't really want.
You know, we haven't explored this fully. You're gonna have to play with your subject and size and just test it and see what you get. It's a little hit and, you know, trial and error.
Yeah.
Oh, and then area. Did you want to show that really quick?
Yeah, let's see. Let me go back.
I menu, or the I menu button. The area is right underneath the And this is cool.
Yeah, it really is. It gives you a grid, and if you have a predictable subject and you know that you're not going to be using any particular area, you can touch these areas. Oops, put away.
There we go. You literally.
You can block out certain areas.
Yeah, if you run around too with the button, you can do a touch screen. I think because we have HDMI out to show you the screen, it's kind of locked it out.
Yeah.
You can just run your finger across the areas that you want to block out and not have the camera looking at. It would take a long time to do with the OK button, but essentially you can just run around. You can touch with your finger on the screen and block out specific areas that you just don't want the camera to look for subjects moving in, which is pretty darn cool.
And it really is. We didn't really use it in this particular case, but there would be cases where you would really want to use it.
Right. So then we'll just go back with the I button.
Yeah.
And then I'll reset that later.
Okay. Yeah.
Record time and wait time. We didn't really mess with that. I just don't think it's like that's setting up a gap in between captures.
Yeah.
And I think it's telling you if you see motion, record for this long. And we just wanted to photograph the little birds and stop photographing them when they weren't flying.
Because these birds were coming and going really, really fast.
Yeah.
But if you're shooting, an animal on a kill, or something on a feeder that's going to be there for long, you don't want to do 1,500 shots of one particular subject. So
I'm
you can
sure
limit it that way.
There's a bunch of reasons to set it up potentially with those. There's all kinds of applications for this. And then finally, our last parameter, right, is advanced subject detection. And we have subject detection turned off. And the reason we did it, as I said, it's just because in my case, it was seeing that knothole on the tree. But you go in there and you can tell it what subject you want it to look for. We turned detection off, so that grazed that section out. If we went back over into motion and detection, then you'd have that area live and you could tell whether you're looking for people or animals or vehicles or automatic, any of the above. But once we get through all that, the I menu takes you to next, and you literally hit that button, and as you can see, it tells you what's going on. You hit the start button. That's it says start is actually movie record, and now it's running. It's looking way past this tree because we told it to look between 23 and 28 meters. But if anything at 23 or 28 meters, tiny is moving, it would start capturing. Bap, 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 bap. And the screen will go blank. Your LCD will turn off. Your camera will time out. And it'll look like it's completely off. And you can go, like, literally, we were working on playing around with the video auto capture a little bit on your camera with the 400 TC. Yeah. While my 800 was set up. And we spent, 10 or 15 minutes, and I thought, wow, mine turned off. And then I hit the shutter button, and it's still active, looking just like this. Yep. And literally, I come back and I look, and there's like 50 images on there, and they're all the little birds in focus moving through. It was happening with the screen turned off while I was over with David working on the video capture. For those of you who want to think about this with video capture, one thing I saw that was cool, it has all the same parameters, but you can also set that record time, that can add a tail to your video clip, which is really, really cool. There's a lot more to explore in this, but setting it up on a nest, I would just kind of go through this procedure that David and I are. Clearly, you have to be a little further than 18 meters with this lens. It might be different with a different lens. But it's cool stuff. And, I just thank David for thinking about it, because honestly, before we were back there doing pre-release capture with JPEGs at 30 frames a second, and you're watching for the bird to move, and then we get on a tripod and you got your finger on the shutter button and you're waiting until the bird comes through and then hitting it afterwards. And we got some good shots that way, but it's really, you're sitting there braced watching constantly. This way, it's just happening. And I gotta say, for those of you with the Z8, the pre-release capture worked great. You're getting a JPEG, make sure your exposure's right, because you don't have as much room to work with as RAW files. We have this set at 20 frames per second, full RAW, and the images are pretty astounding. Yeah. So
that's a good thing to note. Unlike pre-release, you're not limited to JPEGs.
Right.
The only restriction that I've found is that you cannot use DX crop mode.
Yeah, but I don't know, you want it looking all over the frame anyway, probably. Yeah. You could limit it to DX crop mode almost by just blacking out the area around it to not look for subjects moving, and then you crop later.
Yeah.
You know, the other thing I'd say really quick, when you want to stop, you can hit the record button to end, but it still leaves you in the mode where you can restart. You hit it again, all the settings are ready. If you truly want to get out and see what your images are, you have to hit the delete button, the trash cam button, and all of a sudden you're back in. So that's basically how the system works. David, you rock for figuring it out. We got to give a little shout out to Ricci Talks, because he made the video that David watched, you know, to kind of get some of the little bits. I love watching him explain some of the technical aspects of the cameras, and this was a good one. So
It was. Yeah.
you might want to go check him out for even more background info, but I can't wait to see some of the stuff that you capture. I mean, you're already doing such amazing work, but if you can get set up on some of the setups that you already have in South Carolina or anywhere that you're traveling, but this is an amazing tool.
It is.
In the wildlife photographer's arsenal, and I'm sure in a lot of other applications where people are trying to capture fast-moving subjects that are erratic or difficult to time. It's pretty incredible.
I've never had anything like this before.
So, I mean, David, that's not a comprehensive overview.
No.
But it's pretty cool stuff. And I think for those of you with you know, feeders in the yard like you, how many feeders? How do you have your yard set up?
I've got a water feature that I have birds bathing in. I've got perches that I move around different places in the yard. I collect driftwood, go out in my kayak and find driftwood, put it in different places in the yard. Sometimes even put it in Christmas tree stands where you can move it from place to place, because you never want to see bird feeders in your bird photography in the yard. That's amateur hour.
Let's just, as we're talking here, I'm going to probably throw some of David's bird pictures up. I know a lot of you've seen a ton of them, but they're just spectacular. And if there was ever anybody who I thought should have Nikon's 400 2.8 TC S lens, it's you. And how many days a week do you think you're toting that around looking for wildlife?
I'd say a good 3 or 4 every week.
And I've seen you when we did the Charleston workshop, all you were carrying was that lens. Traipsing, even on days when we're kind of doing landscapey stuff, you know, you just it's a dream lens for you. And
it's the thing. And
you're the person who should have it. I mean, we've had a lot of fun here. You know, I have my 800 PF, and we've got our good friend JD's 600 f4 TC S lens, and that's been fun. I've been doing the Autocapture with it. I owe him kindly for lending that to us to go do some more work with the birds. He's a great guy. Thanks, JD. But you know, I think that's a quick and dirty overview for those of you like David who have feeders set up, or you go to a place with birds and you're frequently photographing them, and you could set this camera up and literally maybe you take 2 bodies and you're doing some other work, or you're doing some macro work, or you do some landscape work, and you leave your big lens set on target. And you know, there's still a tremendous amount of composition work that goes into it, thought that goes into the programming of it, making sure that your settings are right. It's not like it's dead simple, but man, oh man, can it feel like cheating to have a cup of coffee while your camera's just spinning in the background capturing images. You know, the screen's blacked out, battery's not taking too much up, and it's capturing. It's a cool thing. We've had a lot of people ask, you know, do you think this is going to come to the Nikon Z8, since they're kind of the same camera inside? And I have no good answer for that, but it wouldn't surprise me if that was a thing that Nikon left only at the Z9 to kind of differentiate the flagship. I don't know.
I suspect that's the way it'll go.
Yeah, it might be. I don't know. I mean, it would be really cool if they ported it to the Z8, but for right now, it came with firmware 4.0 for the Z9. If you don't see it in your Z9's menu system, update to firmware 4.0 and there it'll be.
Yeah, it's only been a month or so.
Yeah.
Well, this was actually the first time I'd even tried it.
Yeah, I remember thinking, well, you know, that's pretty cool. I don't do a lot of animal trap shooting. I could see setting up in a skate park, and if a skateboarder comes up and does some move or something, you know, I saw a lot of that. There's definitely applications, but I mean, for race cars, for you name it, the finish line of events, you know, all kinds of stuff. It's just kind of amazing. And birds in their nests. I mean, I'm blown away with what we were capturing. So, hey, David, thanks so much for explaining that. Thanks for coming and helping on the workshops. You know, I love having you co-lead workshops, and this has been a really, really good one.
It is.
It has. All right, everybody. So, we'll, you know, in August, we're going to be doing an office hours. I can't remember exactly what day, but
I don't either.
run over, take a look at, you know, that link up there. Run to hudsonhenry.com/office hours and sign up. David, Rick, Woody, Darren, and I will chat, take questions, probably show some more pictures from Glacier. There were some good ones. And
Yes.
and take your questions. So sign up. That's just a big free-for-all on YouTube and YouTube Live and Zoom. So sign up for your platform and leave us a question. We got one more day of the workshop and then we're headed off. So hey everybody, I hope you're out there enjoying, staying safe, staying creative. We'll see you next week.
Yeah.